So welcome to this next session, which is an industry insight all the way from Australia. So we're going to talk about portals, and we're really going to dig deep into that topic. Welcome to my Stockholm studio, Douglas.
Hey, how are you? Nice to see you.
I'm very good. How are you?
Yeah, very good. Thank you very much.
So what's the weather like in Australia?
Well, you can see in the background, contrary to popular belief, the sun isn't always shining here in Australia. So it's grey and overcast, but you're in Sweden. So I'm not for a moment going to start complaining about the weather and insult you.
Please don't, because this is not good. And we're moving into even darker times, so... Anyway, we're going to talk about portals today, and apparently you're the expert. Could you tell us a little bit about yourself and why you're such an expert in this?
Well, I'm not sure I'm an expert as such, but I'll give you a bit of background about myself. I've worked in real estate for 20 years now. Surprising, I know, given the youthful complexion. But I used to originally work in the UK. That's where I hailed from originally, and I moved to Australia about 12 years ago. I'm the CEO and owner of Starr Partners. So it's a large real estate group based here in Sydney. Obviously, like everyone watching this, our offices have the same challenges with portals. It's an ever-increasing problem and one we probably need to look to sort out as an industry.
Maybe mostly for me, but also for our audience, could you define what a real estate portal actually is?
Well, that's a great place to start because I am mindful that it's an international audience, so everyone's definition, interpretation, and indeed experience of portals will be very different. But I guess for me, there are three main sort of portals. The first one is what I call the new kid on the block, which is the iBuyer model. Instant buyer, businesses such as opendoor.com in the States. They're a bit unproven and a bit untested, I think. But again, a lot of money going into them, so watch this space. The second model is sale by owner, of course, and obviously that does what it says on the tin. It's deliberately intended to cut us out of the equation and go directly to the public. And the third, more traditional model is what I'll be concentrating on today. And that is the model which we're all familiar with, where the portal obviously charges us, the agent, for the privilege of obviously listing and promoting our customers' listings on their portal itself. And obviously, portals are very popular because clearly it's a convenience factor more than anything else.
Everyone keeps telling me that they're so popular. Why is that in your market?
It's convenient.
It's convenient.
I guess if you look at the definition of a web portal, it's the collection or aggregation of data from various diverse sources in the one uniform place, right? So obviously, as much as we would love the customers to go to our individual sites, the fact that there are dozens of agents in any one area means that it's a convenience factor, right? It just saves a lot of time and aggravation.
But is it convenient or is there a lack of alternatives?
Look, for the time being, I think there isn't a huge amount by way of alternatives because you've got active buyers and passive buyers. Obviously, things like passive buyers can be contacted via the likes of social media. Active buyers, obviously, are the ones that actually will go on a portal with the intention, obviously, of searching for property, clearly.
So very often people refer to Australian market when it comes to portals because they're so influential. How influential are they?
Massively so. We have a duopoly here in Australia. There's two major portals, one of which, though, is 3.5 times bigger than the second biggest by way of web traffic. And to put, I guess, some colour or some context or perspective for the audience around just how big the portals are here. The market cap of the major portal here, which is realestate.com.au, is pretty much equivalent to that of Zillow in the US. For the people watching this in the UK, the market cap of realestate.com.au is equivalent, 3 times the size of that of Rightmove in the UK. So they're absolute behemoths. Obviously, realestate.com.au is the 5th most visited website in the country, behind the usual suspects being Facebook, Google. They are also, unfortunately,
can you say that
for us,
again? Is it compared to Facebook and Google?
So the major portal here is the 5th most visited website in the country, behind Facebook, Google, and usual suspects. They have about 12.5 million unique visitors to the site every single month, which is astronomical. And the annoying thing for us here in Australia is they are also the most expensive portal anywhere on the planet. Again, by way of comparison, obviously there in Sweden, you have sites such as Hemnet, of course. For an average listing, it is 8 times more expensive to list with the portals here than what it is there in Sweden. I mentioned the UK earlier. It's about 5 or 6 times more expensive to list on the portals here than it would be to the likes of Rightmove. So it's often used as a point of reference just because it's so bloody expensive, quite frankly. And it's not used as a point of reference, I think, for the industry in the respective countries of the people watching this, more so for the portals. Because I think what they do is they look with green with envy over to Australia and think to themselves, how can we charge our respective clients in our respective territories more money like they do?
But is it that you actually then pay 5, 6, 7 or 8 times more because of that there are so many visitors? Is that like the only key, or is it just why is it so much more expensive? Is it so much more efficient?
No, look, I think it's become so much more expensive because we've had a very strong market here in Australia. So we've seen, incremental price increases. We also have the luxury of actually passing on the costs a lot of time to the client, which has obviously helped. But where they've been incredibly intelligent, the large portals here, and in particular the biggest one, is that they've invested tens of millions of dollars every year in marketing, promotion, and content. And they've captured the hearts and minds of the public, and they've done a really good job at that. And they're almost, dare I say, a bit of a national institution. They're quite cherished. The public trust and the public like them, and obviously that's why there's so many significant numbers visiting this site. And when they've captured such a vast audience, guess what? They can continue to exponentially increase their prices.
Are they so influential that agents should feel threatened by the actual portals?
The short answer to that is yes, but I'm assuming you want me to elaborate slightly on that.
Yeah, because my next question then is why?
Yeah, well, I suppose if you break it down, and there's many threats or perceived threats, but I suppose for me, if I was sort of thinking about it, I suppose I would define it as perhaps 3 Ds, right? So disintermediation, diminishing profits, and their diversification strategy. So if we looked at those 3 things in isolation, firstly, the elephant in the room, right? And that is disintermediation. These traditional portals, a lot of people are concerned, threatened, paranoid that they may end up trying to cut us out of the equation altogether. For me, I don't think that's going to happen. And I'll explain to you why. Because if you think about these portals, they're huge in size and scale. They employ hundreds of people, right? But by proxy, they also have a sales force of thousands. And that sales force is us, the industry, right? So they've got a sales force. Not only do they not pay for, the sales force pays them. So it is a beautiful business model, is it not, right? So I can't see why they themselves would change or disrupt that anytime soon when we're doing all the dirty work for them. So I don't think we should fear disintermediation for the short to medium term anyway. If you are one of those people, the reality is it's probably going to be somebody else, not the current incumbents. It's probably going to be someone like a Google, Facebook, Amazon, someone who's hiding in plain sight, if you like. But we shouldn't fear or worry about that. What we need to focus on is the stuff where we can't be replaced, right? And just focus on getting better at that. So the first threat is that of disintermediation, as I said, and that's my theory. I don't think we have to worry about that anytime soon. The second one then is a more immediate and pressing one, and that is diminishing profits. For the business owners watching this, obviously the exponential hikes in prices for these listing portals is just incredible. I mean, it's mind-boggling. Here in Australia, the major portal have increased their costs over the last 6 years by a staggering 100%. Show me a business anywhere in the world where you can justify that, let alone get away with it. And I'm sure it's the same story for everyone watching this, wherever they may be in the world. But the problem is that's applying pressure to the bottom lines of real estate businesses. And we need to do something about that. It's a complex issue, but we need for these portals to understand they're starting to diminish our profits and start to hurt us as businesses. So we need to get around the table and start having these conversations. And the third one, of course, then is their diversification strategies. And this is where we can be clever and smart and avoid making them bigger and more powerful. Because let's not forget, we as an industry are Dr. Frankenstein, right? We made that particular monster. So let's not make it any more, powerful and bigger than it needs to be. And the diversification strategy, they're not just one-trick ponies anymore. They offer a number of services in addition to just obviously advertising listings online. They're now in the social media space. They've got testimonial platforms, and soon they'll be selling us seller leads, which I think is something that we have to avoid like the plague, quite frankly.
But doesn't this power structure allow for a growing market of agents that boycott these portals, or just start one fresh that's cheaper?
See, I would encourage agents or agencies to look to boycott some of these ancillary services I've just referred to, these add-on services, because we don't want to make them richer and more profitable than they need to be. But in regards to the essence, perhaps, of your question, in regards to boycotting them, so not actually advertising our listings on the portals, I think the problem there, though, lies in the disservice we're doing our clients. We've got to remind ourselves what our job is. Our job is not to sell property. Our job is to sell property for the very best price possible and get the very best outcome possible. And for as much as we like it or not, the portals are the primary source of search for consumers at the moment. So if you take that out of the equation or out of the ecosystem, you are doing your client a disservice. So I would describe them as a necessary evil, certainly for the time being anyway.
What do you see in a foreseeable future, like in 5 years? What do you think will happen to this structure and the portals itself?
Well, I do think we'll see more players enter the space. As I said, I think we'll certainly see more challenges from outside of the industry. I mean, let's not forget it's a multi-billion-dollar industry globally. So I do think we will get some other players encroach the space. And I think based on the current paradigm, I think these fat cat portals will continue to get fatter at our expense. And I do think that someone there will start to challenge that, whether it be one of the social media sites, as I say, or a Google or an Amazon. But at the moment, as I said, we're at their mercy and we have to do something about that. But they are, unfortunately, a necessary evil. And as I said, the vast majority of the buying public will utilize their services. And it's about, the 101 of sales, right? We shouldn't be looking to sell properties in isolation. We should be looking to sell them in competition. Here in Australia, we've got a lot of instances now of properties being sold off market, which I really don't think is a good thing. Because in a parallel universe somewhere, that listing has gone live across all platforms. And I can almost guarantee you by doing that, we will be getting that customer a better price. So as I said, they are a necessary evil for the time being anyway. As for the future, it's anyone's guess, quite frankly. It really is.
Yeah. Well, I'd like to thank you for these insights. I think it's very interesting, and even more so if you're maybe a real estate agent, I think.